I was on Tinder a few months ago when I was bored. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, definitely not a relationship. Just one of those times to see who swiped me for fun and having pointless chats. Plus, there was always that chance that a girl would be down to meet up for the night and, maybe I'd get lucky. That didn't happen this night though. I was the opposite of lucky. My first 20 or so swipes were full of matches. I sent corny pickup lines to a few of them that I found attractive. However, there was one girl who messaged me first. Her name was Michelle. She was a 23-year-old blonde. She was a solid 9 out of 10, almost unrealistically attractive. So the fact that she said hey first was pretty intoxicating, and I was a little intoxicated quite literally already. She was close too. Eventually, things were going so smoothly that I decided to try and be ballsy and turn the conversation sexual. That went smoothly as well, so I escalated things even more by getting her number and then texting her to try and set something up that same night. To my surprise and delight, she seemed really willing, but she wanted to meet out somewhere and hang out first before going back to her place. I was fine with that, and so she seemed to take charge and set up a time and place to meet. She said she wanted to hang in a small park by her house first at 10 o'clock. It was a little odd, but I was down. I literally counted the minutes until around 9:45 when I decided it was time to leave. Before leaving, I sent a quick confirmation text, and she said she was still down to meet. The drive to this small residential park was maybe 10 minutes, so I got there a little early. I walked over to the swing set, the exact point where she wanted to meet. I didn't want to let her know I was early because I thought that might make me seem needy or anxious. So I waited until exactly 10:02 on the dot to text her saying I was there. This was when she stopped responding. 10:05, 10:10, sitting there waiting with no response. Of course, at first, I figured she was driving and couldn't check her phone. But as the minutes passed, that idea started to become less realistic, and the idea that she flaked was becoming more realistic. The playground area was surrounded by trees. In fact, this whole park was very woodsy. And having been a weeknight, nobody was out and about at this time, so honestly it was kind of creepy sitting in that park alone. The only reason I could see was because of the motion-detecting light mounted onto the small bathroom shack. In one direction, the park turned to complete woods for miles, while in the other direction, beyond a few trees, was the neighborhood road. I was sitting on the swing, pushing back and forth and bored. When I froze, the sounds of the squeaky metal swing chains stopped, allowing me to hear something echo out from the little bathroom shack. It sounded like, a typical sound you'd expect to hear from inside one of those bathrooms, like somebody pressing down on the handle of the paper towel dispenser or something like that. What I'm trying to say, it sounded intentional, meaning someone might have been in there. Now this wouldn't be a completely strange thing. After all, it's a public park. Maybe I would have thought that they would lock the bathrooms up at this hour. And who else would actually be in this tiny park at 10:15 on a weeknight? Then I suddenly felt the vibration in my pocket. So excited, I whipped out the phone and saw a new text from Michelle. The text said exactly this. "Hey, just got here. Come into the bathroom. I have a surprise for you." My heart dropped as I read this. I felt butterflies in my stomach. I felt like an innocent nervousness, more like a disturbed and freaked out feeling. My thumbs were hovering over the phone as I was conjuring up something to type in response. Then she sent another text saying, "Get off the swing and come here." As I read the text, I looked up to the tiny bathroom building and opened my mouth, almost ready to scream, when I saw half of a person's face peering out from the entrance from one of the bathrooms, leering over to me on the swing. For maybe half a second did I actually see a good portion of their face though, because they slowly moved out of sight. To be honest, in the heat of the moment I couldn't even tell if it was a male or female, but I knew something bad was going on, and I knew I was disturbed as hell by this situation. So, I got off the swing quietly and tipped out away from the playground. When I was far enough away, I ran for it back to my car. That run back to my car itself was one of the most horrific experiences of my life, because I had the constant fear of somebody chasing me in the back of my mind. As soon as I locked my car, I was able to pause for a breather, but up until that point, nothing compared to the gut-wrenching fear that I felt when I took one last look into the park and saw a grown man emerge from the trees running towards my car. I turned the key in the ignition and practically threw the car and drive before it was eventually started. When I was halfway down the road and looked back, there was nobody in the street. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat there for 10 minutes thinking and reflecting. I felt like I had become a changed person at that moment, like I knew what it truly felt like to appreciate life after having my life threatened. I deleted my Tinder account and then deleted the app. I didn't tell any of my family members besides my older brother. I've had a girlfriend for the past 2 months, so luckily I don't even have to think about using that app anymore. I'm very anti-dating apps, but I guess I'm biased because of the nightmarish experience I had with Tinder. I've only met up with 3 people ever off Tinder. The first 2 experiences were nothing special. I wasn't excited about either of the girls, and there were no second dates. But compared to the third meetup, in comparison the first 2 went phenomenally. I matched with this brunette girl named Annette. She had up 4 pictures, 3 of which she was posing alone in what looked like her backyard. The 4th one was in front of a pond. At the time, I didn't see it as a red flag that she was alone in all of her pictures. Honestly, why would I? But she was decently attractive, at least in my standards. So, I talked to her, and it got to the point where she asked what I was doing that night. And when I said nothing, she asked if she could come over and hang out. Considering my bedroom and my parents' houses in the basement with a separate entrance, it would work out rather nicely. We set a time for her to come over. When the time came, she texted me literally right on the dot that she was outside. Punctual to say the least. I let her in the side basement door entrance, and we walked downstairs. I tried to make the greeting not awkward, but right off the bat. First impression, she seemed weird. Her responses were short, her laugh was weird, when we sat down on my bed and asked her how long the drive was. She laughed. She didn't even answer my question. She just laughed like I told a joke. And as she laughed, she looked right at me, her eyes still open wide. It was uncomfortable, and I already knew I wasn't going to vibe with this girl. I turned the TV on in the background for filler, and I pretended to be laughing at the TV because of the constant awkward silences, and she never once batted an eye to look at the TV. She just watched me the whole time. I was able to wrap it up quickly by pretending I got a text about going into work early the next day, and I implied I needed to go to sleep. She seemed like she didn't want to leave. It was extremely awkward. But I managed to get her to follow me out the basement door. When she was finally gone, I had to ask myself, what did I just put myself through? Not even 5 minutes after she left. She texted me, "Are you sure you have to go to bed?" I was having fun. I read the text inside. I threw my phone on the bed to charge while I went to get food upstairs. When I got back, I had 3 more texts from her, 2 being question marks, the last one being hello with more question marks. This girl was clearly nuts, so I blocked her. Done and done, I went to bed an hour later. I woke in the middle of the night like I often do. I'm a light sleeper, it's really annoying. Waking up randomly isn't weird for me. I instinctively felt around for my phone to check what time it was. But my phone wasn't by its normal spot on the ledge charging, and I 100% remembered putting it there. So, I got up and started looking around for my phone. I turned on the bedside strip of red LED lights I had hung on the wall to light up the room just a bit. I couldn't find it though. And I'm kind of the person who will let that bother me until I find it. I went upstairs to grab the landline phone and bring it down so I could call my number. When I dialed my number, I heard it ringing from inside the boiler/laundry room, which was connected to my room. I entered the boiler room and there was my phone left on the washer machine, causing the entire machine to vibrate as it rang. I knew this was bizarre because I didn't do laundry that night. I didn't even remember going in there. I picked up my phone to see a bunch of new messages from some random number. I opened the text to see two pictures of me sleeping. Above the pictures were two texts saying, "Nice, good job locking me out." The second one saying, "Lock your door next time." And I realized what an idiot I was, that I was so anxious to get her out of my room that I didn't even lock the door when she left. And I can't say for certain, but I felt like I wasn't alone in the room, like I just felt another presence, and I had a feeling that she may have been hiding behind the cylinder boiler in the darkest corner of the room. But I didn't go look. I went upstairs to get my parents and call the police. Given that the girl was dumb enough, or crazy enough to leave a digital footprint, tracking her and getting charges pressed on her was easy. Her name wasn't even Annette. Her real name was Silvana. Her charges were a breaking and entering charge and a stalking and harassment charge. I, of course, got a restraining order, and I've never heard from that girl again.